So today we're going to be taking it further. We're going to be discussing still tech-wise and tech-foolish behavior. So we're going to focus more today on tech-wise behaviors. Having looked at tech-foolish behaviors, we can't exhaust it, but let me quickly move on to tech-wise behavior. What are some of the behaviors you need to imbibe in this tech age so that you'll be able to keep your relationship together? Here are some of the simple recommendations that I will give based on research. Number one, stop sharing your personal needs or emotional situation on your public page. I have never seen a situation like I'm seeing in our days. A married woman will go online and you're going to put on your feed, I am sad. Sorry, ma, what do you want us to do? You're married, and then you go and put an emoticon on your own public page before close to 2 billion people on Facebook. I'm sad. Someone cheer me up. Like, what? Sorry, ma'am, are you okay? Okay, let's assume you're truly sad and you want encouragement. You don't have a sister? If you go to church, don't you have a pastor's wife? You don't have a confidant? I mean, you go on Facebook where you have predators, men looking for women they will devour after the order of their father, who goes about like a roaring lion. And those are the kind of things these men are looking for. And then you go out on Facebook, you go and put there whatever is happening in your family, we can read it somehow. You may be crafting the way you craft your words, but you make us know what's going on in your family. We don't even know why some men are just inconsiderate. Madam, who are you talking about? Your husband? And the social media is your public display center? And we are reading it yesterday. The one we read yesterday was that I don't know why men will not be sensitive enough to give women money. And so every day, whenever I want to know what's going on in your family, will come to your feed. And then you have a man who, based on the profiling of your situation, will begin to package himself as an alternative to your husband. So don't forget this. If you're going to be tech wise, you need to make sure you stop sharing your personal needs and emotional situation on your page. Number two, stop believing tech and cyber liars. Stop believing tech liars and cyber liars. There are people who use technology to make themselves look large. Anybody you truly don't know to their houses, don't totally believe what you see about them on social media. Can I say that again? Anyone you don't truly know to their houses, you don't have a good information about them, please don't believe everything they put out there on social media. There's what we call real depth and apparent depth. There are people that look real on social media, but they have apparent depth when you meet with them. It is not what you think it is. Don't lose your family, your relationship. Don't damage your relationship because of an assumed posture that somebody puts on the platform. An assumed posture that somebody puts on the platform. Don't damage your own relationship because of that. Number three, tech-wise behavior. Stop visiting chat rooms. Stop visiting chat rooms. Secret chat rooms. I'm a relationship coach, so we research all of it. We research everything. I'm a marriage educator, so we research all this stuff. Secret chat rooms. You stay awake in the night like you want to study. You stay awake in the night like you want to do some other things, and you go into chat rooms with all kinds of women around the world, with all kinds of men around the world. Secret chat rooms where you sometimes bear nude and exchange nude pictures, where you pay prostitutes to engage their services, escorts, and the rest of that. So here's my little counsel to all of us, men and women. Whatever the situation is, if you are born again, everybody write that down. Once you are born again, stop cheating. Otherwise, it's a matter of time. You will be exposed. You know why? I'm going to tell you the secret now. You came under a covenant you didn't know. What is that covenant? Jesus enacted a very powerful statement. Put in place a very powerful statement. Listen to what he said. He said, in this kingdom, whatsoever is done in the secret shall be brought to the limelight. That is where you run into problem. So if you are born again, you are not enjoying, your marriage is having problem, pray that God will take care of you. But don't go cheating. Don't go doing chat rooms, pursuing small girls all over. You're going to girls in China, going to girls in Brazil, in hungry, like you are hungry, so you just go all over the place. One day it will come out. Another point I want to share with you, which we call tech-wise behaviors, is to stop comparing your spouse with cyber pretenders. Stop comparing your spouse with cyber pretenders. You know the latest thing I notice these days? I see these girls who will just come around and make you believe that their stomachs are so flat. My God. And you, the man, you're like, my goodness. Now these girls don't have any responsibility. They've not given birth to kids. Your wife has given birth to about 4 for you. Your wife has been stretched to the max. Now, but these girls have no responsibility. And if you meet them in true life where there is no packaging, right, you'll be shocked what they truly look like without the packaging. So what you don't know, sir, in case sir, you are not aware, sir, because I'm into relationships, so I know these things very well, sir. Sir, there's something women call what's that thing, the women gadul or something like that, sir. There's something women use, sir. I know you may not be aware, sir. So women use something, it's like a belt. Is that okay? I'm just trying to be very raw with you. They use something like a belt. They put it, when they put that stuff, it can reduce their stomach size to almost a handful. All right. Now when you see, and then so they've mastered how to breathe. So when they are walking, they are doing catwalk. So you see them at the top, they are large, and then right here they are very slim. And then when you are seeing that, because you don't know what is inside, you now carry that picture in your mind of a slim waist, and in your mind you are looking at your wife in the house, and you're like, what kind of thing do I have in my house? And you're like, God, my wife needs to look like that girl. Hello, sir. That girl is worse than your wife. She is using something. It's something they use to gather everything together. Is that okay, sir? Stop comparing your partner with cyber pretenders. Stop joining inappropriate group. You are married. What are you looking for in Badu? You are a married man. You are going to singles page. In fact, it's so shocking, sir. You are a man. You are joining single parents, single mothers page. A man. And they are wondering, what are you, a single mother? What are you looking for? You are married man. You have children. Your children are grown. And you are joining single mothers page. You are joining Badu. You are now a gift to women all over the world. You are an encourager. You are a comforter. It's a tech-wise behavior not to join inappropriate groups. Join correct groups for mothers like you. Join correct groups of women who want to serve God. Join correct groups of men who want to add value to their lives. Stop entertaining cyber hunters. I mentioned that earlier. There are cyber hunters online. Stop entertaining them. Stop using your life to entertain them. Stop hooking up with people who are all over the internet looking for who they will devour. Stop hiding your password from your partner? When did you become secret agent with can I give you an example of what your password look like? Hash 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 start. God, what is wrong, sir? Madam, what is happening to you? It's so serious, ma, that your password is a combination of thumbprint. You have thumb, you have alphanumeric. So you have your finger, then you have hash hash star star. Then you have biometrics. You also put your face. And all these three must be used for the thing to open. What are you covering? The time has come for your partner to know what your password is. God forbid you are in a crisis and we need to quickly get into your phone, maybe to reach your account, and you can't talk. You are in a very serious crisis. God forbid, but it happens. How do we access? You passworded everything. You brought the face of a lion, you put there, you put your own face, you've combined numbers, alphabet, you even include Quranic writing. What are you doing? What I'm just telling you, stop hiding your password. Now, let me tell you another one. This is part of tech-wise behavior. Stop listening to unproven and unscriptural gender or relationship coaches. Stop listening to people online who are telling you nonsense. People who have failed marriages telling you how to live your own. People who have never known what the world of marriage looks like telling you how easy it is. Be careful who instructs you online. Your instructor may be your destroyer, may get you out of your marriage. As a man, be careful who you listen to. Make sure you are not listening to unproven coaches. Make sure if a man is telling you how to make your marriage work, look at his own. How long has he been in marriage? A man who couldn't keep a marriage for 3 weeks is not telling you how to stay married for 30 years. Stop sneaking and peeping into your ex's social media. Stop it. Stop sneaking. Let me go and see what is happening. You have left that place. Stop looking back. The wife of Lot, when she left Sodom, she started looking back. The Bible says she became a pillar of salt. I don't know what you can become. I don't know what you may become. If you keep looking back at where you came from, you will become something else. People who keep looking back, they always become something else. So be careful not to be looking back at where you came from. Stop using page followers and like to determine your worth. You are more than how many people are following you on social media. In reality, if you are telling the truth, they will not follow you. The world like lies. And those who follow you, celebrate the fact that they are following you. And don't forget, you are not defined by how many people follow you. Jesus had thousands of followers, thousands of likes when he was alive. One day he preached a message and people unfollowed him immediately. Thousands unfollowed him. By the time he looked at his Facebook page, Jesus had only 12 people left from thousands. That is the highest on record, the highest decamp on any leader. That thousands of people left one man in one day. Church decline. Did that make Jesus not to be Jesus? He still remains Jesus. So don't allow who follows and who doesn't follow you to define you. Stop the aimless, focusless, and timeless use of social media. You just go on social media. Nope. How short life is. You will now go on social media. You are there for hours, just jumping from page to page. Like when you are finished, somebody's waiting to say, how long did you spend? Take money. Aimless visit on social media. I pray that every day when you get on social media, you'll be hearing my voice. Aimless visit. Aimless visit. You are busy feeding on social media, wasting your data. And I'm not talking about religious stuff and all of that which adds value to your life. I'm just talking about wasting data, visiting on some people. Every time they shop on social media, they market something, money comes to them. What a moment we had last week talking about tech-wise behaviors and tech-foolish behaviors. My name is Sam Oye, and absolutely gladdens my heart to connect with you today as we have this moment to deliberate on the things that borders on our relationships. It will be a great honor and privilege to share this moment with you and your friends. So I'll be so honored if you will take the time out to invite your friends and let them know that the Relationship Masterclass is ready to begin today, and we are starting with a very, very important subject that we all need to give attention to. And I'm going to be talking to you today on breaking negative relationship cycles. It happened yesterday. It happened last year, last month, about a quarter ago, and it's happening again. If you understand what I'm talking about, you should know that I'm talking to you or talking with you. We've all been there. I mean, we all go through it on a regular basis in relationship. I'm talking about cycles and patterns. Let me always say this: you never change a problem if you don't alter the pattern. Write that down. You can never change the problem until first you understand the patterns. Once you're able to understand the pattern, then you can be able to deal with the problem. It's important. Let me write that down again. Okay, so it's about patterns and problems. Okay, and never forget this, that until you deal with the pattern, you will never be able to change the problem. It's important you write that down. Let me see the fastest finger to write that out for us. Until you change the problem on the pattern, you can't change the problem. So what I've noticed in relationship is that I've seen individuals who want to change the problem. They don't like the problem. I mean, who likes problems in relationships? We don't like the fact that, again, that it repeats itself. It happens over and over again. And so we hate it. We don't want to see it happen. Unfortunately, here we are having it happen again and again. So if you're going to change the pattern, if you're going to change the problem, you must identify the pattern that powers the problem. Oh, what did I just say now? There's a pattern that powers the problem. Very important to note that. There's a pattern that powers the problem. Write that down. Today is going to be a remarkable one. And like I said, for those of you who are relationship coaches and marriage counselors in your churches, I think this is going to add some value to you. And you're free to take what I've taught, go add value to it, and make it better than what I've said. And don't tell anybody you got it from me. Is that okay? It honestly doesn't matter to me. The most important thing is let's help people. Is that okay? Let's go all the way out there and help people. I mean, I learned things from some other people too, so you are learning from me. Go ahead and let's make marriages and relationships to work. So let's remember what I said before, and I want to see the fastest person to remind me of that. Don't forget that I said the pattern always powers the problem. Write that down. The pattern always powers the problem. So if you want to deal with the problem, go back to the pattern. Yes. If it is happening again and again, if this matter we're discussing in our relationship is something that has been on and on, we talked about it last week, we're talking about it again, and it's been on and on. This is not the first time we're talking about it. This may likely not be the last time, except we deal with the pattern. Something powers this behavior. We need to find out what it is. And I'm sure the previous teachings that I've done so far will be able to lead you into some of the things that drive some of those behaviors in relationships, all right? So let's get down to the heart of our conversation for today. Let's go to what I call the theology of relationship. Amos chapter 3, verse 3. Amos chapter 3 in verse 3. Now, I'm only laying the foundation so that you can use this time to call your sister, call your brother, call your friend, call your auntie, call your husband, wife, call your brother and his wife. They've been calling you about their marital problem. It's time to link them up with someone who can help them. Is that all right? So let's get to the core of it. Amos chapter 3 in verse 3. I know quite a number of you know that almost by heart. It states in the Bible that can two walk together except they be agreed? Can two walk together except they be agreed? The reverse application of that is that until we are agreed, we cannot work together. Until there is basic agreement, we cannot work together. All right? So let's take it from there today, that until we agree on few things. Knowing who you are, knowing who I am, accepting who you are, accepting who I am, and then creating room for each of us to find expression in the relationship such that my weaknesses is complemented by your strength, and my strength also complements your weaknesses, and all of that. Until we come into that place of agreement, our relationships will always suffer great pain. All right? So let's take it a little bit further. Let me ask you some questions, and I want you to honestly think about these questions. Number one, let me ask you these questions. What always makes your relationship to have repeated crises? Big question number one. What is it that always makes your relationship to have repeated crises? Okay, let me ask you all to do something. Can you get a sheet of paper? There's going to be a little bit interactive. This is not about that person today or that person. It's about you. It is about me. It's about a relationship. I'd like you to take a note now, and I want you to write some few stuff. I'd like you to write some few stuff right now. Okay? Question number one, like I said, what always makes your relationship to have repeated crisis? What is it that always makes your relationship to have repeated crisis? Take note of that question. Can you think about that? Number two question, what always leads to that repeated crisis? What is it that always makes this crisis? Wait a minute. You know, sometimes as adults, we need to be ashamed of ourselves. Honestly, we need to be ashamed of ourselves as adults. And what I mean by that is very simple. We point at our kids and we're like, what is wrong with you? You did that yesterday. You're doing that again today. Ain't you ashamed of yourself? Hey, mom, calm down. Dad, calm down. Don't you think we need to point those fingers at ourselves and say, hey, ain't we also ashamed of ourselves that what we are dealing with now are things we've been dealing with for the last 5 years of our marriage? We should get to a point where we're like, wait a minute, are we normal? Is it normal for a child to be repeating a class? No, let's talk about the parents. Adults, let's talk about it. How do you feel? How will you feel if your child keep repeating a subject? Let me not even talk about subject is too big. Is that okay? There's a question or there's a problem in mathematics, arithmetics, all right? There's a question that your son always repeats. Fails that question. You get a teacher, he fails. You take your son out to where others are solving the same problem, your son still comes back and repeat. And the worst part is that your son will always give back what your son had always given back. How would you feel if your son keeps repeating the same thing over and over again? You teach, you expose your son to a different environment, different culture. You expose your son to different teachers, and your son will still remain adamant, giving back the same answers that caused him to fail before. Please, this is not a class for you to gloss over. This is not one of those classes that you're just going to gloss over. No, we're not in a rush here today. We really want to do a thorough work today. This requires deep introspection. I'm asking you a question. Why do we make the same mistakes? Not a mistake. Why do we repeat the same pattern over and over? We quarreled over it. We fought over it. We even at sometimes we bet each other over it. We accuse each other over it. And somebody still repeats it. So here are my questions right now. Number one, I said, what always initiates or leads to that repeated crisis? Don't gloss over that. You need to answer that question. What leads? What always triggers that repeated crisis? What is the crisis first? What kind of problem do you notice repeat itself in your marriage? Can I tell you why we're doing this? The Bible says that examine yourself daily to see whether you're in the faith. And someone once said, an unexamined life is not worth living. If you're not the kind of person that sits down to examine your life, it is the reason why you're going to be consistently repeating the same errors that hurts your partner. Can I say that again? People who don't consciously examine themselves, People who don't audit their behaviors. Did you get that word now? That's the word. Audit. People who don't audit their behaviors consistently are bound to repeat the same thing over and over. You know what that does to your partner? It weakens your partner's commitment towards you. 2, it begins to deplete your partner's passion towards you. Number 3, it begins to weaken the bond of intimacy between you and your partner. Whilst your partner may be performing duties, your partner is already reconsidering life without you. Never forget that. Because don't forget that, forget this, the person on the receiving side of your unexamined life is not going to be on the receiving side for life. Did you hear what I just said right now? Write that down. The person on the receiving side of your unexamined life will not be on the receiving side for life. There are conditions that will make the person receive it for a while. After a while, and the conditions are no longer there, the person will leave you in a jiffy, and you'll be shocked. You will wake up and say, what happened? But why did you leave? I thought we were together. No, you've not been together. The marriage has been gone long ago. The relationship has been gone long ago. Why? The person got tired of putting up with your unexamined life. Just like you get tired of a child who repeats a class over and over, not a class, repeats an error over and over again. Just like you get tired of that, even so, your partner gets tired of the fact that what he talked about, what she told you she hated, you're still doing the same. All right, so let's get on to the questions we're asking. Now, we're just at the preliminaries, so you can begin to imagine what today's conversation is all about. The only thing you can do for somebody you love in your office, someone you love in your church, that couple that is having some challenges, the only thing you can do for them now, copy the link, send it to your WhatsApp group, your family group, send it out to as many as you can right about now, because we're just getting down to the foundation of our conversation for today. All right? So question number 1 was the fact that what always initiates or leads to this repeated crisis that we have in the marriage or in the relationship. Number 2, how do you always behave or react when there is a crisis? Very important. How do you always behave when there is a crisis? It's important that you are able to come to terms with how you behave. You see, whenever you get into a situation whereby you have continuous behavior without attempted inventories, you're going to keep repeating that behavior. How do you always react, behave whenever there is a crisis? Okay? It's important that we get to figure out how do you constantly behave whenever there is a crisis. Number 3, thereabout. How does your partner behave or react to your behavior? Now, listen, how do you behave when there's a crisis? Number 3, how does your partner behave or react to your behavior and your reaction? In physics, there is something we call, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So my question is, whenever there's a crisis, how does your partner behave to your behavior and your reactions? All right. This is just leading us to some important things. How does your partner behave to your behavior and reactions? Then the next question will be, how does your partner's behavior or reaction make you feel or see yourself? Now, don't forget, you behave in a particular way. That triggered behavior, a behavior from your partner. How does your partner's behavior make you feel, think, or see yourself? This is leading us to something. I'm trying to show you how patterns and cycles are established in relationship. The next question I want to ask you is, do you confront your partner when you notice that behavior from your partner? Do you confront, or do you withdraw, or do you get into a situation where you resolve or repeat the same situation? Now, what normally creates a cycle is normally not too far from the points that I've mentioned. If you don't confront it, you will withdraw from it. If you don't withdraw from it, you will resolve it. And if you don't resolve it, you will repeat it. And here's the point. The reason why cycles are repeated is that people have gotten used to either withdrawing, confronting, or people who have gotten used, who are not used to confronting, who are not used to withdrawing, people who are not used to, resolving, always end up repeating. So let's get to the heart of this today as we begin to look at this whole thing. What exactly is negative relationship cycle? What do we mean when we talk about, what does that mean when we talk about negative relationship cycle? What does that mean? I'd like you to follow me with this few definition. Negative relationship cycle is a toxic or vicious or repeated pattern of behavior or interaction that destroys emotional bonds between two individuals in a relationship or marriage. I'm going to break that down for you. So when we're talking about negative relationship cycles, we're talking basically about toxic, vicious, and repeated patterns of interaction that destroys or weakens the bond of intimacy between two individuals who are in relationship together. So if there is a pattern of interaction that is toxic, that is very, very painful, hurtful, a very, very wicked way of interaction that often results in a very painful way of relating with each other, such that the bonds between you and I begins to get weakened or broken, such thing, if it repeats itself, it's a negative relationship cycle. It's a negative relationship cycle. I'm going to say that again so that you can get this. Negative relationship cycles, basically, they are toxic, vicious, and repeated patterns of interaction. Very, very toxic. They are vicious. They are very hurtful. And they are repeated patterns of interaction, and they destroy the bonds of interaction between two individuals. You need to start asking yourself, do I get myself in that kind of situation? I'm only laying the foundation, so I'd like you to follow carefully. Negative relationship cycle can also be considered as patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving where both partners get stuck in fighting with each other or one another. It's a negative way of thinking, a negative way of acting, behaving, deciding that often causes two individuals in a relationship to always get at loggerheads with each other. It's what we call a negative cycle of behavior. Negative cycles of relationships. What are some of the triggers? What are the things that triggers this negative, relationship cycles? What are some of the things that triggers this vicious, repeated pattern of interaction that breaks the bond between you and I, between husband and wife, between singles? We're going to get into the heart of the conversation now. What are some of the major triggers? What causes this? What stimulates it? We call them the stimulus. What leads to that? Number one, we have what they call the stages involved. The stages involved in creating what we call a negative relationship cycle. The stages involved. Number one, there is what we call triggers. Triggers. Now, triggers are basically the things that activate, stimulate, and causes a negative cycle in the first place to begin. Triggers are the things, when you have a gun and you pull the trigger, it causes a bullet to come out. So what are the things that triggers negative cycles in relationships? We're going to be looking at those triggers very shortly. But don't forget that number one, if you're going to look at the stages involved in creating a negative relationship cycle, the first thing you're going to identify is what we call triggers. Number two stage is what we call reaction. When there is a trigger, the next thing is there will be a reaction. Now, normally the cycle will not continue if instead of a reaction there is a response. Reaction is emotion without intelligence. Response is emotion plus intelligence. It's important to note that. Reaction basically is when you act emotionally without thinking. Response is when you allow your intellect to govern the expression of your emotions. So in the absence of response, when there is a trigger, there is going to be reaction. What reaction causes is it causes the expression of negative behaviors. Follow carefully. It causes the expression of negative behaviors. And it is these negative behaviors that will either lead to a repeat, it will lead to defense, or it will lead to regret. When these behaviors are expressed, somebody will regret. And when the person regrets, look, I'm sorry for what I've done, all right? The relationship, that cycle can be broken with regret. I'm sorry for what I've done, and I will not do that again. Apologies, all right? So regret can lead to apology. Regret can lead to repentance. In the absence of regret, there will be defense. And defense is normally what causes relationships not to be healed when there is a crisis. Regret. When you have a situation whereby instead of regretting, repenting, and apologizing, you have a situation whereby an individual is putting up a defense. You don't heal a relationship where there is defense. When there's stonewalling and defensiveness, we don't get relationships to become better. Now, it is from this point, defense can lead to repeat. Meaning when somebody is unwilling to acknowledge your wrong in a relationship, what that does is that it's going to start leading to a repeat of the same cycle. So you are 10 years old in marriage, but you are having the same thing repeating itself. You are 5 years in relationship, 2 years in relationship, but you are still dealing with the same thing. You know why? Somebody is not regretting, repenting, and apologizing. Somebody is defending himself or herself in the situation. Somebody is being protective. Now, that always leads to repeat. And continuous repetition of the same situation will weaken the heart and the resolve of someone who believes in the relationship. What we are saying is, if I love you, I'm passionate about you, and you keep repeating the same thing, over time, I'm going to get tired, I'm going to get frustrated, and after a while, I'm going to check out. It happens on both ends. There are women who are put up for too long, and then one day they just get tired and say, look, you know what, I'm done with this, I have to go. So having said that, we need to quickly look at, this is where the rubber hits the road now. What are some of these negative relationship cycles? Can we begin to deal with them one by one? I've been able to establish you what negative relationship cycles are. They are patterns of behaviors that are toxic and they break the bond between individuals in relationships. Patterns of behaviors that repeat themselves, and they are vicious, they are toxic, they are bad, they are not good for relationships, but it's allowed to just repeat itself in a relationship because somebody is unwilling to do what? To repent, regret, apologize. Somebody is defensive, and so the person will repeat it over and over again. And don't forget what I told you. If you keep repeating it, after a while, the person who is putting up with you will no longer be able to put up for too long. It will lead to a breakup or a divorce. You cannot escape that, except there is a direct repentance and will break the cycle. Let's get to the heart of this conversation now. Number one negative relationship cycle that I want to introduce you to today is what I call the cycle of domination and intimidation. The negative cycle of domination and intimidation. This is one of the major and one of the most deadliest negative relationship cycles, domination and intimidation. What that does in a relationship is that repeatedly you have a situation whereby whenever we are having a conversation, interaction as a husband and a wife or singles in relationship, there is this person who shuts down the other person, who doesn't allow this person, other person, to express himself or herself. You are in that kind of relationship. where somebody just suppresses you, oppresses you, does not allow you to express your heart. It's a relationship where just keep your emotions to yourself, don't express how you feel. We create a pseudo-peaceful relationship environment. Can I say that again? We create a pseudo-peaceful relationship environment. A relationship environment that looks like there is no quarrel. Why? We don't talk. Now, the problem with that is that it doesn't mean we are at peace. See, a relationship that talks and they come at each other, relationships where there is constant conversation and even confrontation that eventually leads to resolution. Can I say that again? A relationship where there's constant conversation, constant confrontation, and ultimately constant resolution is better in every way than a relationship where there is quietness, peace, pseudo peace, no conversation, and there is a presumed atmosphere of intimacy. The reality is that kind of a relationship is dangerous. I always say this to couples: if your partner begins to go quiet, please don't be comfortable with that kind of relationship. Make your partner talk. A silent partner is a very dangerous person to live with. A silent partner. Please go ahead and share the video right now. I think we need to quickly do that. Go ahead and share the video right now so that we can get others on board quickly, because I'm going to the heart of this and we're going to be touching on very, very sensitive matters as it concerns relationships today. I need to share the video myself too. I just need to do that right now. Very good. Need to get some of my friends on board. Okido. So do not forget what I've just said right now. If we're going to have a very successful relationship, there's got to be conversation. We've got to talk. We've got to talk. And like I said, an environment where we talk and we have confrontation and resolution is better than an environment where we don't talk. Because the reality of the matter is, we don't even know what is in each other's heart, on each other's hearts. So it's very, very dangerous. So there is this negative cycle of domination. If you are the type, whether you are a woman, you are a man, if you are the type that always dominates your partner, your voice is always the voice that is heard. Your choices are the only choices that are carried out. Your decisions are final. You always have your way. Your partner always concedes to you. It is a win-lose relationship. You are always winning. Your partner is always losing. Now, in that kind of relationship, it is a domineering, intimidating relationship. That cycle will produce an unhealthy relationship. You are constantly domineering. You may think you're winning, but on the day you get to find out that you're not winning, it might be too late. If you're a single, you're in relationship with somebody, and the planning of the wedding, all, it's your idea. Where the wedding will take place, your idea. The kind of clothes you will wear, your idea. The flowers that will be there, your idea. The setup of the place, your idea. The other person want to talk, no, just keep quiet, just keep quiet. You are constantly dominating the relationship. Don't think you are winning when you are dominating. Write that down. Don't think you are winning when you are dominating your relationship. You are actually losing. Domineering partners always end up losing their partners. Write that down. Domineering partners always end up losing their partner. Isn't that so good? Domineering partners always end up losing their partners. Never think that when you are domineering that you are winning. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. Intimidation. You constantly intimidate your partner, either with your intellect or with your resource, with your family background. You're constantly expressing contempt on your partner. So you are subjugating, suppressing, intimidating, repressing your partner, not allowing your partner to find the expression in the relationship. And it happens over and over again. That is why it is a negative cycle of domination and intimidation. That has to stop. It is not in the spirit of Christ. If you're a child of God, that should not be part of our relationship. Jesus does not practice domination and intimidation. No, not at all. If you carry the Spirit of Christ, you're supposed to serve one another, create room for each other. Let's go further and look at some of the cycles that we're talking about. Number 2 is a negative cycle of emotional disengagement. What does that mean? There is this constant cycle. It starts, for a while, 2 of us will not be emotionally connected. They call it the negative cycle of emotional disengagement. For a while, 2 of us are not emotionally connected. We are emotionally disengaged, okay? If you are married, you are emotionally divorced. You sleep in the same house, but emotionally you are not connected. Is that all right? Why? Somebody is defensive. So there is no emotional penetration. Did you hear what I just said right now? Yes, you can be having sex where there is physical penetration, but you are not having intimacy because there is no emotional penetration. And let me say this. Relationships where there is sexual penetration, where there is penetration of organs, but there is no penetration of emotions, those relationships are highly vulnerable to divorce. Meaning, sexual penetration will never sustain a relationship where there's no emotional penetration. Isn't that shocking? So that's why people are like, but we slept yesterday together and she has left me. We slept together and he has left me. I gave him sex, but he's gone. Yes, because emotional penetration is stronger than physical penetration. What keeps a relationship strong is emotional connection. So when we begin to have emotional disengagement in a relationship, something is already going wrong. Something is already wrong. And the earlier you quickly reconnect, the better. So if you notice you are in a relationship whereby you are sitting together, but there's no emotional spark, there's no emotional connection, let's do something about it. Let's not be silent about it. Let's be open about it. Otherwise, it leads to marital or relationship breakdown. So one of the cycles in relationships that we need to break is the cycle of emotional disengagement. Now, I want to quickly say something here. There are so many of us who are watching me right now whose parents were the architect of our current expressions. What do I mean? You grew up in a home where there was no emotional expression, where there was no kissing, no hugging. You never saw your father kiss your mom. I'm not talking about those of you in the Western world. If you grew up in patriarchal Africa, where your father doesn't hug your mom, the most you've ever seen your mom do is to constantly kneel down before your father. She doesn't even get close to him because he's a mountain that cannot be approached. I mean, our fathers are like Mount Sinai. I mean, if you grew up in Africa, fathers are like Mount Sinai. When your father calls you and say, "Where are you?" You know, when you are coming before your father, you are quaking. You're really, really quaking. And when your mom too, when your father calls your mom and she's coming to see your father, you know, it's always like she's coming before the mount of the Lord, the burning mount of Horeb, where there's so much fear and intimidation. Your mom is afraid of your father. So you grew up in a home where you didn't see emotional expression. It was not modeled before you. You didn't see dad hugging mom, holding mom, walking together with mom. Listen carefully, please. I want to say something that everybody listen to me about. If you didn't grow up in such a home where there was public display of affection, please note, you didn't grow up in a good environment. And the earlier you and I accept that, the earlier we can begin to accept change. If you grew up in a place where there was no public display of affection, write that down, public display of affection. There was no public, your father never brought roses home, never brought flowers home, never bought gifts for your mom, never celebrated her birthday. It wasn't a normal environment you grew up in. It is the reason why even though inside you want to show love to your partner, you're finding it difficult because you didn't see it somewhere else. You may have watched it on TV, but you never stayed close to anybody, so to say, who is within your close proximity growing up that did that. Yes, you can learn. Yes, you can unlearn. It's important first you admit that I didn't grow up in an ideal environment. There was no public display of affection. Can you remember when your father celebrated your mother's birthday? Can you remember when you saw your father holding your mom and saying, look, they just want to go out on a vacation? Can you ever remember when your father told you, the kids, hey, kids, go away. Your mom and I want to have time together at home? No. And you grow up in that kind of environment. Here you are now, you're a matured person, you're married. You want to show love, but you don't know how. Because your emotions are trapped by the environment you were raised in. It's time you admit that something went wrong and embrace a new way of living so that you will not end up repeating the cycles of emotional disengagement. You grew up in a polygamous home. You're watching me right now. You grew up in a polygamous or polyandrous environment. Your mother had several partners. So you grew up in a place where you saw on display the lack of emotional connection with one person. You don't know, you don't even have an idea how that affected you psychologically, because you grew up watching a man claiming he loves 2 wives, 3 wives, 4 wives. You grew up in an environment where your mother is telling you that one is her husband, the other one is her husband too. So something inside you just simply tells you that you can't put your emotion in one person. So here you are married, and you're finding it difficult to put 100% of your emotions in a relationship. Why? You didn't see that being modeled. Wow. I told you this is really going to get tough today, because it's going to be a very serious conversation as we begin to look at the issue of cycles. I see somebody saying, Pastor Sam, this is so true, and all of that. Learn and unlearn. It's important for you to understand that if you grew up in such a dysfunctional environment, there is nothing wrong saying, I grew up in a dysfunctional environment. And I want to get it right in my time. Let me say something. Every time you protect the dysfunctional environment you grew up in, it predisposes you to repeat the cycle. Why? Whatever you protect doesn't get healed. Whatever you covered doesn't get healed. If you have an injury and you keep covering it up, it doesn't get healed. It's going to become infected and it will ultimately kill you. The same thing with the family you come from. Yeah, there are some good things, but the problem with families is that the strength of a family gets weakened over the next generation. The weakness of the family gets amplified across generation. So what will be transferred most times will be the weakness of your generation, of your life, of your family, the family you come from. The weakness of it will multiply. David slept with some women. Amnon slept with his sister. Absalom slept with multiple women. Why? The weakness of David's life got amplified across generation. Abraham lied. Isaac came to lie. Jacob became a liar. 10 sons lied back to him. Weaknesses get amplified across generations. Weaknesses get amplified across generations. We hated what we saw, but we're repeating just the same. Because if it's in the root, it will be in the fruit, except there's a change in orientation, change in disposition, change in decision making, change in perception, and change in action. So we're talking about negative cycles today. We're talking about how negative cycles begin. There must be a trigger. There must be a response. And there must be a situation whereby somebody puts a stop to it or allows it to continue again. I feel like asking you to say to yourself, I'm the terminator. What that means is I'm the one that will put an end to this. I mean, I never saw my father celebrate my mom. And that is not an excuse for me not to celebrate my wife. I just need to acknowledge that that is a bad behavior. And that cycle must not continue. I have to acknowledge that. And even though I didn't see it in my home, Hey, listen to me. There is nothing wrong going to stay with some couples who celebrate each other to learn, or find ways to watch movies that teaches you how to celebrate one another. If you can't learn from anybody around you, find some movies about celebration and find ways to celebrate your partner. The point I'm making is every negative pattern from your bloodline that you excuse will keep you in bondage. You'll never rise above a negative cycle that you excuse. Write that down. You never rise above a negative cycle that you excuse. I love what somebody just said right now. Is that Malpone or something like that? You said, I'm the terminator. I will put a stop to this. I love it. I love it. Yes, I love what somebody else is saying. Favor said, we hated what we saw and we're repeating just the same. It happened to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods saw his father cheating on his mom. Tiger Woods said he hated his father for doing that. Years later, the same Tiger Woods who hated what his father did, Tiger Woods, when he was asked, how many women have you slept with? He said, my recollection, the number of women I can think about is about 100 women I've slept with. I hated my father doing it with one. I have done it with over 100. So we're talking about negative patterns, cycles. Please listen to me. It has no respect for your religion. It has no respect for your title. We have had men of God. We've had online. We have a man of God that we respect a lot in Africa and across the world. He came public to the atmosphere, to the entire world, to say, listen to me. He got to realize when he divorced his wife, he got to meet with Bishop Jakes, and Bishop Jakes said, does this thing run in your bloodline? Does this cycle repeat itself in your bloodline? And he got to realize that out of 30 plus of his father's children, all of them were divorced. He was the only one that was yet to be divorced, and now he has just divorced his wife. What are we saying? Negative cycles. Negative, you hate it, but you're doing it. We are pastors. Now, most time when you look at us, you think our title will insulate us and protect us from the issues of our bloodline. That is why you have a situation whereby most of us pastors fall into things that make you question, didn't he say he's a servant of God? Yes, he's a servant of God, but he also has issues to deal with. His title does not insure him from the challenges of life. He has to deal with it. It's important for us to understand that these are issues we have to deal with today. Let's talk about cycles, negative cycles. The first cycle I talked to you about is a negative cycle of domination and intimidation. I have been around pastors whose wives dare not speak. I've been around leaders whose wives dare not speak when they are talking. Why? Domination in the atmosphere. Intimidation. You can see that the woman is afraid of the man to death. When she wants to speak, if the man looks at her, it's enough to make her shut up. The cycle of domination. And check it up. He grew up, that man, not minding whether you're born again or not, you grew up from a place where there was also domination and intimidation. You are repeating the cycle. Here's my concern for you. If you don't break this cycle, it will be worse in the lives of your children. This is why I'm calling you to break the cycle. Break the cycle. Your children grew up seeing you dominate your husband, dominate your wife. They grew up. They saw it. And they are visually affected by that. Please, can I talk to parents? And can I talk to those who grew up from those environments? It wasn't okay. You didn't grow up in a good place. And don't think it didn't matter. It mattered. You will always repeat what you saw. I'm calling you to a state of consciousness before the effects begin. Recognize that you grew up in a wrong environment, and it's time to start doing something about it. Second negative cycle I talked about is a cycle of emotional disengagement. Your mother and your father were emotionally divorced. They were in the same house, but no emotional connection. Nothing. They only performed duties. No intimacy, no fellowship, nothing. You never saw emotional connection. They were emotionally disengaged. What was keeping the two of them were children. And there's somebody watching me right now. You are also in the same situation right now in your own life. What is keeping you with your partner? Just the kids, just the children. How do we deal with emotional disengagement in the first place? What caused us to drift apart? What led to your drift? What made the two of you to be emotionally disengaged? Is it observation? Is it growth? What happened? Is it new opportunities? Is it new demand? Is it children? What caused the drift? Until you identify the trigger and respond instead of react, you may not be able to resolve the problem. Follow me as I take you on this journey today. This is really going to get interesting. Number 3 is a negative cycle of emotional abuse. This is one of the most deadliest of all negative cycles in relationship. Emotional abuse, psychological abuse, where you speak with words that are critical and contemptuous to destroy the emotions of your partner. Where you use statements that are poisonous, such that after you've dropped the words, the poisons are spreading around your partner. We've all been victims of it. I've had moments in my life when my wife will come in like, you said this, and I'm like, good God Almighty, I didn't mean that, but that was how she heard it. That was how she heard it. In the moments when we are upset, we make statements to express our feelings. But the interpretation of what we said in the moments when we are hurt, only the person who is on the receiving end lives with the reality of it. I'm talking about emotional abuse. The cycle goes on and on. Because of our time, number 4 is a negative cycle of stubbornness and inflexibility. I've seen this play out severally in marriages and relationships, where one partner is just absolutely stubborn. You can't be corrected. You are alpha, you are in between, you are omega. You are beginning, you are the middle, you are the end. Your authority cannot be challenged. You cannot be questioned. And whatever you believe, you hold on to it. Even if you are sinking with it like the Titanic. You are rigid, you are inflexible. Your wife or husband cannot tell you and something that you are. No, this is my way. It's my way. It's either your way or no other way. Where did you learn that from? Obviously, too, you learned that from your family background, or maybe growing up, this actually becomes your personality. And it repeats itself. Negative cycle of stubborn behaviors. Negative cycle of self-will, inflexibility. You are not teachable. You are not open to learning. As it was in the days gone by, so it is. And it's like that's how it will be, world without. You are not open to learning. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you learned something new about life? Okay. When was the last time you learned something new about love? When was the last time you learned something new about relationship? When was the last time you said, oh my goodness, I didn't know this? When was the last time you were like, Eureka, I just found it? When was the last time you deliberately went on a journey for self-improvement? When was the last time that you carried yourself to somebody's space and sat down, took a pen and a paper, and shut up after asking a question? Say, please teach me. When was the last time you subjected yourself to learning? What is the guarantee that you will become better than you are today when you are learning nothing today? You know how much I need to applaud you for joining this masterclass? It is a show of commitment to growth. God bless you for tuning in. It shows you value your future. And tomorrow, we're taking it to a whole new level tomorrow, I tell you. So I'm laying the foundation now for negative cycles. I want to see your marriage work. Your kids deserve to grow in a better environment than where you grew up from. If there are 20 of you who want to say yes with me, go ahead and say, yes, I subscribe. Can I say that again? Your children deserve to grow up in a better environment than the kind of environment you grew up in. If you agree with me, just simply type, yes, I subscribe. Yes, I subscribe. Your children deserve to grow in an environment where they see love, in an environment where they see dad and mom cuddling together, holding each other, doing things for each other. Your children deserve to grow up in that kind of environment. I remember we're making a joke with my wife some years back, and you know, I was trying to like hold my wife, and she was like, hey, stop that. I'm like, what happened? And listen to what you're going to be shocked what my wife said. This was several years back anyway. I was just about to, holding my wife. For God's sake, my wife. And my wife was like, stop that. I'm like, what happened? And she was like, the children are going to see us. And I'm like, this is what I want them to see. I didn't see that growing up. I want my son to grow up knowing it's okay to hug a woman that is his wife. So it's something I do with my daughter today. We don't play with hugging each other. Because I want her to know it's okay. It's okay. Stubbornness drowns relationships. Inflexibility destroys marriages. Rigidity sinks marriages and relationships. Nothing makes relationships to be healthy like a personal commitment to constant growth and development. If you're married, go somewhere, meet with a sex therapist. Let them teach you new ways to spice up your sex life. It cannot be as it was in Lord Lugard's days. You can't be in a digital era having sexual relationship with your wife as if you're in an analog dispensation. Just like things have changed globally, why is it remaining the same in your own place? The only person that remains the same is our God. He changeth not. Even that same God that he changeth not. If you behold his beauty, it is constantly new every morning. Why is your sexual life as it was way back? Your intimacy, the way you relate, you are still in the typewriter era. Nothing has improved. No change, nothing. See somebody laughing. Okay? So we have this cycle of stubbornness and inflexibility, whereby daddy was stubborn. He was stubborn until he got to the grave. He maintained his course, even though it was a wrong course, he maintained it to death. And you are also following the same. You are a woman, you are very stubborn, rigid, inflexible. Your husband fears you. And you're excited about that. It is wrong. You're going to raise up kids who are also very stubborn, inflexible, unteachable. Let's continue this with the negative cycle of verbal abuse. Negative cycle of verbal abuse. Oh my goodness. Listen. This cycle, let me give you an instance. I grew up in a part of my country, Nigeria, where when you wake up in the morning, to greet your elders, they don't greet you like good morning. They greet you with an insult. They can insult your father, insult your mom, and it's a way of greeting. So you grew up in an environment where verbal abuse was a normal thing. There are some parts of Nigeria whereby verbal abuse, it's just all over in the atmosphere. So children from such a place, when they grow up and become adults, when they are talking with their wives, they are talking with their husbands, they use such abusive language. For them, it is okay. But for the partner, it is damaging. Can you imagine that a woman was busy working, helping her husband from morning till evening, and then a friend walked into the house and saw the wife working, and he said to his husband, your wife has been working so hard since morning. Wow, can't you be of help to her? Listen to what the man said. He said, it is her work. He said, it is her job. He spoke in a Yoruba dialect, and it's so demeaning when you speak that in Yoruba. In Yoruba, they call it Isheni. Like he paid to hire her to be doing that at home. We use very damning words on each other. And the cycle goes on and on. It repeats itself and it damages relationship. I wish I can talk so much about that. But because of our time, I must respect your time. We're going to go deeper into this negative cycle tomorrow and find ways to break them. Please do not fail to connect your friends. Share this video with your friends so that they can connect with us tomorrow. You may need to watch this again on your way to work. Before you sleep in the night, watch this again. And make sure you understand what triggers this particular negative cycle, the stages involved. Know how to break it. And tomorrow we will take it a step further. If you have any need for prayer because you've tried to break it and you've not been able to break the pattern, the cycle, why don't you join us tomorrow morning? Tomorrow, what a time we had in the place of prayer during the prophetic prayer hour. If you've not been a part of the prayer we have every morning, 5:50 a.m. West African time, which is about 12:50 a.m. past midnight Eastern Standard Time in the United States. If you have not been a part of it, I encourage you to join us today past midnight if you're in the U.S. and tomorrow morning if you're anywhere in Nigeria, 6:50 a.m. South African time, 7:50 a.m. Kenyan time. We'd like you to join up with us. 4:50 a.m. it is in Ghana. Make sure you join us tomorrow. We're going to be praying for all the men in our lives. And most importantly, tomorrow is the day we're going to be praying for our ladies who are single, who want to be married, our women who want to carry their children. We're going to be praying for women, daughters, wives tomorrow. I love you so very much. I cannot but just say thank you for hooking up with us today. And like it is always my custom to say, keep on keeping on.